sweep streets like Michelangelo painted pictures. Sweep streets like Handel and Beethoven composed music. Sweep streets like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Sweep streets so well that all the host of heaven and earth will have to pause and say, here lived a great street sweeper who swept his job well. If you can't be a pine on the top of a hill, be a scrub in the valley, but be the best little scrub on the side of the reel. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. It isn't by size that you win or you fail. Be the best of whatever you are. And when you do this, you've mastered the length of life.
Brought to you by Pico, powering communities, Keystone Plus, premium nutrition meals, and JD's Auto Body and Painting for all your auto body and detailing needs.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. A My Social Security account allows you to access your earnings history and benefits information, request a replacement Social Security card, get a proof of income letter, estimate and apply for benefits, and more. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security. Securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
This is WURD Radio,
96.1 FM
and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
Black Talk Media.
The views and opinions expressed by the guests, listeners, and hosts of any program on WURD Radio do not necessarily reflect those of ownership, management, or advertisers of this station.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Chris Murray Report on WURD Radio, 900 AM, 96.1 FM. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had quite a week in Philadelphia. One, I got to acknowledge that your Philadelphia 76ers are 9-4 in the NBA, and they are one game along with the Milwaukee Bucks. They are tied for second for in the Eastern Conference, which is not bad. Mm-hmm. And the Sixers aren't playing half bad. We're going to talk about them at the bottom of the hour. I mean, they're I'm not good Lord, I have Doug Peterson on the brain, but Doc Rivers has done pretty. You see some different. This is a different team, big time different team. We're going to ask Jack McCaffrey about that at the bottom of the hour. Today, I'm kind of, I want to hear from my listeners today. I got to hear from you all today because I want to talk about this week. Where was I Monday? I get a text from the Eagles saying that they're going to make an announcement about Doug Peterson. And of course, they fired Doug. They gave Doug the heave-ho, despite being, 3 years removed, Jordan, from winning a Super Bowl. What did you think of that, Jordan? I mean, what did you think of them firing Doug, man?
Honestly, in my opinion, I think it was the right decision because I feel it was something about how Jeffrey Lurie wasn't really impressed with the practices and stuff like that. He wasn't like how it was running. And then, also the fact that, Doug wasn't really committed to Jalen Hurts. He really wanted Jalen Hurts to, get some opportunities, early on. Especially with Carson Wentz, struggling.
Yeah, because they drafted him. And, the story I wrote this week in the Philadelphia Sundays, I wrote a couple of stories about that, actually. But the story that I wrote, that chronicle the firing of Doug Peterson, was Doug Peterson. If you read all the articles, I went and read always read what everybody else reads, says. I just want to get, to see if I'm on the same track.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that probably the closest, I was reading Marcus Hayes of the Daily News, and I think that, out of everybody, I think he's probably more right. Though a lot of people made some really salient points. And it harkened me back to something Bill Parcells said back in the late 90s. He said that if you're going to be the cook, they should at least let you have some type of sale, let you buy the groceries, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I think happened, a couple of things. One, the fractured relationship between Carson Wentz and Doug Peterson, that was just bad. Somebody had to go, and it wasn't going to be Carson because they paying him all his money.
And that cap next year, if we were to get rid of him, like for next season, even the following season, it's bad.
Yeah.
Looking bad. I think something like around 50-something million cap hit next season if we were to get rid of him, and then like 20 mil like the following season.
Yeah, he'd still
Something
be
like
on
that.
the book. Yeah, and you could bring in other good players. So you're dealing with that situation, obviously. But according to all the reports, is that basically Doug Peterson had some of his assistants chosen for him by the front office.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good. That's not good for a variety of reasons. One, I think that last year Carson supposedly was bullying one, I think it was Mike Rowe, or one of the assistants. Carson did not get along with a lot of, would not take instruction. This year, the Eagles had this sort of triumvirate, or of all these coaches between Pressway and this guy Scangarello, and a whole bunch of other people that were basically deciding, okay, what you're going to do in the offense, and maybe even Deuce Staley, who was the assistant head coach. I think, we'll talk about Deuce Staley as a candidate, talking about, because, Jeffrey Lurie did mention something about, well, we're going to have, quote unquote, I hate this term, minority candidate. I'd rather not be called a minority. I'd rather be called, if we're going to say if you're going to talk about us in the collective, people of color, okay, I'd prefer that over, minority. Because in about 20 years, we will be the majority. I mean, people of color will be the majority in this country, which for some people is not a good thing for some people. But the fact is that, okay, you can't have that many assistant coaches. It's like having too many cooks in the kitchen, unless you're bringing in food from, when you go to Thanksgiving dinner. Mm-hmm. When you go to Thanksgiving dinner and whatnot, you don't have a whole lot of cooks in the kitchen. Usually, somebody cooks the macaroni and cheese in their own kitchen,
right,
and whatnot, because you don't have too many people in that kitchen. Okay, now you should put more salt on it. No, put more cheese. That kind of thing. Okay, so you don't have that many people, and so there's too many voices. The offensive line was bad. They made some choices, and I think that, the draft choices, and a lot of people were surprised that Howie Roseman, the GM, was not tossed out with Peterson.
Yeah, I thought he should have been tossed out too. I thought he should have.
Yeah, he should have been tossed out because the draft choices they've made, and everybody pointed this out at the press conference. Mm-hmm. A lot of the reporters were pointing this out. They said, well, what about some of the draft picks? I mean, there hasn't been a Pro Bowler in the last 4 or 5 years since Roseman has taken that role, and that was Carson. And you blew DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
And I remember being on this program and telling my colleagues, my good buddy Al Thompson, who runs Football Stories and Magazine, I said that they got to get that kid. Oh, he can't run. He runs in the slot. He just runs in the slot. He's a good. I said no. He had to play that role because he had Jamal Chase on his team last year at LSU, and there were so many good receivers on that team. And I'm hoping that they're looking at Devontae Smith. Man,
I sure hope so. he
looked brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
I'm an Ohio State fan. After the, I didn't tell you the story. One time, Don Meredith was playing for the Cowboys, a quarterback in the '60s, and he was a really popular kind of country, kind of fun guy, and great quarterback though. But he said one day they were playing Jim Brown and the Cleveland Browns, and Jim Brown was running them all over the place. Brown was so good that Meredith said he sat on the sideline, if you watch me on Facebook, and he did like this, started clapping his hands. Sometimes I don't like Alabama. I don't like Alabama or any of the schools down there, but they got great players. I mean, I gotta admit that they have great players. But I was watching Devontae Smith, and I was just like, dang, well, my wife is an alum of Ohio State before she went to Temple. She went to school there. And after a while, I figured Ohio State was a great team. They're a good team. I mean, there's no shame in losing this game. They didn't choke or anything like that. Sometimes the other guy's better than you. And Devontae Smith was just like, boom, catching balls all over the place. He did every little pattern. He did every little pattern out there that you used to do. He cut by the fire hydrant, went up to the flagpole, and all that, touchdown. I mean, it was just like, dang, man. It was like he was playing street ball. Okay, there's always the one guy out there, right? You play street football. There's one guy that nobody can stop.
Right.
And I was one before I gained a lot of weight. But the thing about it, it was just that guy is good, and Alabama has a whole bunch of guys. There's a whole bunch of guys. And when I start looking at once this season, I'm going to be looking. I'm a draft geek, and I'm going to be looking at some of the receivers, but I'm also going to be looking at offensive linemen and linebackers.
Yeah, that's a big one. Definitely.
Howie Roseman blew those things, and they need the linebacker for the second pick. They need somebody on that defense, and they've not had this. And I want to say, in terms of the linebacker core, since Jeremiah Trotter. Okay, I'm talking about linebacker who's an enforcer, who's gonna I'm gonna kill. Which one of y'all the ball carrier? Which one of y'all the referee? Because I'm gonna kill the ball carrier. I'm gonna kill him. Which one of y'all the quarterback? And all that. You need somebody like that on the team. Who got the ball in their hands? Because I'm gonna kill him. And that's what they need. That's exactly what they need. They need some defense.
Yeah,
Last year, I liked Jalen Hurts. Loved Jalen Hurts at Oklahoma. Loved him I didn't love him at Alabama, but I liked how he matured, dealt with the demotion, and got better.
Yeah, you know what? That kind of brings up the question because, actually, Lincoln Riley is actually something that the Eagles were looking at. So I wonder if they bring him in, does that mean he's gonna lean more in favor to Jalen Hurts? That'd be the question right there.
That's a great, Jordan, that's a great question. That is a great question because if they bring in Lincoln Riley, okay, and I wanted to get to the coaching candidates, I wanted to get with that because there's another guy who's experienced in the NFL who is a hotshot assistant, but he has the wrong skin color, and that's Eric Bieniemy. I'm gonna be honest. On this show, I'm going to be honest about that, okay? Because, first of all, he's a hotshot assistant. Now, a lot of people aren't talking to him. I think it's because Kansas City's still in the playoffs. They're on a playoff run and all that. Although I heard that Andy Reid gave him permission. I don't know. But that's a guy you need for this team. This is a guy who's nurtured Patrick Mahomes, and that offense is still one of the best offenses in the National Football League. And, to me, now the knock on Bieniemy, and I'll be honest, the knock on Bieniemy is whether or not he does the play calling, because Andy Reid does most of the play calling. But the thing is, and then there have been some people who said he's had bad interviews. I mean, to me, see, that goes back to something. See, you can, they let Andrew Gase have a job. He was they let every little hotshot assistant coach, and yet they don't want to look at Eric Bieniemy. Now, Lurie, to his credit, did say that when it comes to looking at candidates. I think he requested to interview Todd Bowles. He talked to this guy.
I remember he was requesting to interview Robert Saleh, but now he's with the Jets now. Right.
He was, like I say again, that's there's this other kid. There was another guy, Gerard. I can't think of his name off the top of my head because I was looking at it last night. But he interviewed there have been some black candidates that have been interviewed. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to call in and vent your spleen on these issues, 215-634-8065, 1-866-361-0900. You want to vent your spleen and tell me, well, Mr. Murray, I think they should do this or do that. Well, before I get the calls and stuff, I'm just saying that. I'm just saying that, yes, I'm glad, and I hope this is not just lip service. Yeah, Gerard Mayo, who is I think he's the linebacker coach with the New England Patriots. And they also interviewed the offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, of Carolina Panthers. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to turn, because y'all think I talk too much, and I do. But I want to turn. I'm going to let you guys. I have Brother Joe from Germantown on the line with us. Brother Joe, how are you? And first of all, Happy New Year to you. I didn't hear from you. Did I hear from you last week? I didn't hear from you last week. So,
I didn't get the call last week, Chris. No, I didn't.
Okay, so how are you, man? What's going on?
I'm doing
what say you about all this, man?
You're happy to hear you and Brother Jordan. Number two, and for you and Sister Denise, Chris. May Almighty God, Allah bless you and Sister Denise to have a happy and prosperous life together, man. I wish y'all nothing but the best. Man, I heard Denise on yesterday on Tiffany Bacon's show, and I could hear her and her boy said she was just damning as a proud new bride, and I just wish y'all the best, man. Like I said, I had the honor of meeting both y'all for the first time in person down at when WRD had the Black Back Expedition at Community College a couple of years. I think it was back in the Christmas of 2017. That's when I had the honor of meeting both of y'all. Chris, it was a pleasure. Man, I had a good time, put a lot of good items there, supporting black businesses. It was a good time held by all that day, Chris. So
no doubt.
Man. Wish y'all the best. Chris, before I get started, I want to tie everything together. To Brother Jordan's point about Lincoln Kennedy. As though Lincoln Kennedy would be a perfect coach, but that crybaby Carson Wentz would throw a hissy fit if Lincoln Kennedy came here, because he's such an immature little punk and stuff. He'll start thinking that Lincoln Kennedy would favor Jaylen Hurts instead of an open competition. So Carson Wentz would shoot that down right off the bat. Even though it would be a good choice for this team if he's offensive-minded type coach, but that won't happen. Even though it should happen, it won't happen. But Ed Benoni, he should definitely get the helmet of Deuce Stelly should definitely be the coach for this team. No question about that. So we'll see how serious Larry is about dealing with the giving a black man. He did hire Ray Rose, but that was years ago. So I'm gonna see if he's willing.
That was his first coach.
Exactly. But I want to see if he's going to give another brother a shot. But anyway, on Carson Wentz, I read Marcus Haynes. I read your colleague, Jeff McClain, and all them guys. Carson Wentz, I got no respect for him. He's a petulant, spoiled white brat and stuff. And I don't say it in a hateful way. That's what he is. He's a petulant, spoiled white. He got Doug Peterson fired because he felt as though Peterson turned on him. No, Carson, you got benched because you were sticking up the joint, dude. You were stinking. I mean, it wasn't like he was benched unfairly. You was put on the bench because your belt was leading the league in turnovers, fumbles, interceptions. You was overthrowing people, underthrowing people. You deserve to be benched and stuff. And I'm going to continue to say what I always been saying. Why is it? And I don't want to listen to what Brother Joe's saying. Why is it when a white boy is benched for a brother, I don't care whether it's always some kind of issue, but they got no problem benching a brother for a white boy, and that's in this story. They don't care how the brother's feelings are. You think James and Winston like to get benched or any of these other guys? But when a brother get benched for a white player, it's no issue. But if someone happened another way around, I give a good example because right here in Philadelphia, years ago, and I say this to my grade, that's why people like Frank Dawson, the late inquiry writer. That's why a lot of them guys hated Randall Cunningham and Buddy Ryan, because Buddy Ryan used to bring Randall in on third down, and then he seen what kind of prize and what kind of talent he had in Randall. He said, I'm going to stop bringing him. I'm going to make Randall the starter. So he put Brian Jaworski sorry behind on the bench and made Randall the starter. And people like Howard Eskin, Frank Dawson, all them, they hated Buddy Ryan and Randall. They never let up on them because they hated the fact that a white quarterback was benched for a brother. And that kind of mindset still exists and stuff, man. They don't care. They never care about a brother's feelings when he's benched. But now because of everybody got to kiss Carson Wentz behind now and walk short line around him because he's such a crybaby, petulant child. And like you said, Chris, the reason why the Eagles kept him over him because they try to justify him. They paid that overrated bum all that money, and now they stuck with him. So like Jordan said, to be dead cap money over the next year or two. So they kind of stuck. They made a deal with the devil, so they stuck with him now. So I mean, and it's unfortunate too because without looking Kennedy coming here, I got a bad feeling that Jalen Hurts is not going to get a fair shot because from what I heard from sources, Carson Wentz already made it clear that he want to say so who the coach going to be, number one. Number two, he don't want no open competition. He want the job handed right to him. Now, you say, you sort of be the better quarterback, Carson. Once you have an open competition with Jalen Hurts, the best man wins. But see, he don't want that because he's insecure. The Eagles never going to win nothing with him because he's a loser. He has a loser's mentality. Okay. He's not even a man. Because look at Jalen, and I close with this, Chris. Look at Jalen Hurts. He got benched in Alabama. He didn't pout. He went on and made himself a better player. He took that benching and said, I'm going to work on my game, and went on to become even a greater quarterback. And if Carson Wentz was any kind of integrity and character, he would do the same, but he wants something handed to him. And so, and I'm going to tell you right now, Chris, and I'll let you go on this. That locker room, people are not saying they're going to be split on a racial divide, too. Especially if Jalen Hurts is not given a fair shot. And so it's going to be split racially divided on that locker room. I can tell you that right now, Chris, mark my words. And lastly, Chris, and I'm gone, your boy Kurt Schilling. Oh, he may be a great pitcher. And he probably did, because I try to separate the person for the pitcher. He's a great pitcher. He probably do deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. But he's a cold-blooded bigot. So, I mean, support Donald Trump. Said some things about, see, he didn't use the word black, but read between the lines. He said about, because he was trying to, anybody in their right mind, Chris, to try to justify what happened at the D.C. Capitol last week when they stormed the Capitol, them white supremacist thugs. He sat there and took up for them, saying they was being mischaracterized, they was patriots, and saying that why nobody saying about these urban thugs that rioted during the summer. And I'm saying to myself, first of all, Mr. Kurt Schilling, the black people that was out there protesting against police killings of George Floyd and other people, they wasn't fighting the police, they wasn't attacking the Capitol, and they didn't kill nobody. These people died, Kirkson. Do you understand, fool? These people died, man. What are you talking about, man? See, it just goes to show you, Chris, when these guys get off the baseball field, you find out how their true views is. And lastly, Chris, that Washington quarterback, Hickey, that filled in for Alex Smith when they lost the playoff game in Tampa Bay last week. I heard a lot of black players looking at him kind of one-sided because they just found out he a Trump supporter. And don't get me wrong, Chris, that's his right to support Donald Trump when you have a white racist president. But my point is that you as a black man, you have a right to look at him for side eyes because if he's supporting a racist like Donald Trump, then he can't be no friend of yours. So these brothers need to start looking at some of these white players who they consider their friends or whatever because you don't know what their views is when they leave that football field, that basketball court, that baseball diamond. Just food for thought, okay, Chris?
Okay, thank you, Ray. Well, first of all, okay, no, I understand what you're saying there, Joe. I really do. But let me, from a football perspective, let me say this. In Carson's defense, he had the worst offensive line in pro football. Mm-hmm. In his defense, be a devil's advocate. He had the worst offensive line. He had 14 different offensive line groups this year. 14. Yeah. And that didn't protect him. Now, play calling didn't help. Not running the football. And I know we got to go to break before I bring in Jack and all that, but we got to go to break. And I want to come back. I'm going to have Pots and Pans and Richard, West Philly, and Richard of North Philly to weigh in on what's being said here today and all that. So from that standpoint, we got to go to break. So listen to 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURD, the Chris Murray Report. We'll be right back.
The moments, the movements, the culture, then and now. WHYY shines a light on our past and our progress like no one else. Monday night at 9, the stories of Lena Horne, Abby Lincoln, Diane Carroll, Nina Simone, Cicely Tyson, and Pam Grier. Black female entertainers who transformed American culture forever. Produced by Alicia Keys. How It Feels to Be Free. Monday night at 9 on WHYY TV 12.
Listen to Laborers Live.
We created the weekend. We created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
To people that might have forgot how important unionism is in the country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour workday, trying to work people more than 8 hours without overtime, trying to work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting a fat paycheck except the worker. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager, and Tony Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
Want the latest in Word swag? Check out the shop tab on WURDradio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on WURDradio.com. Show the world that you're all about black. Talk Media. You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Independent black media.
Okay, we are back. Now, on the line with me, we have Pots and Pans from West Philly. Pots and Pans, real quick, what do you think about all this stuff, man?
Oh, hey, Chris, good morning, everybody. I think a whole lot going on, of course, but I'm glad Jeff Laurie made the decision about canning the coach. But I think he should have did it over the phone when how you do the TV thing face to face like that instead of Doug Peterson going all the way down to Florida. You know, he could have canned it right over the phone. You know how you do that TV thing.
Yeah.
Face to face. Yeah. And
well, because of COVID restrictions, you know, it's hard to get people in the same room. They must have done a Zoom conference of some sort. You know, when they talked about it. Yeah.
Oh, that's what I mean. He did that, or did he go down there?
I think they had some kind of Zoom conference. They talked because they met to talk about. See, he got fired because Lurie wasn't satisfied with the plans he had moving forward. And Lurie said during the press conference with us was that, you know, it wasn't that Peterson was a bad coach. It's just that they were going in two different directions. Like, for example, number one, it's kind of like, you know, Peterson wanted to build for 2021, and basically Roseman and Lurie were looking to semi-blow the team up. If you read into it, you listen to the press conference, you look at the transcripts, they wanted to blow the team up a little bit, go younger, get rid of the guys that were on the Super Bowl team, basically, and get younger. That's understandable. So, and then, too, they have to deal with the albatross that is Carson Wentz. And the thing is, they believe, Lurie and Roseman believe, that they can bring a coach in to play, I guess, it's an analogy to Humpty Dumpty. Can all the king horses and all the king's coaches put Carson Wentz together again? That's where you know where I think this thing is going. There is that they really wanted a coach that's going to help put Wentz back together while also going younger. If that makes sense.
Do you think Deuce Staley would be a good coach?
I think Deuce Staley would be a great head coach. I think that Deuce Staley would give this team some balance that they don't have. And a lot of times, what happens when you have a patchwork offensive line? What you have to do in that situation, the best thing that any inexperienced offensive line can do is run block. Pass blocking is a whole nother thing. But you make it easier to pass block. Run the football.
Yep.
I mean, that's Doug got mad at me when I suggested that he do that for his quarterback. Of course, not that he should listen to anything I say. I mean, he knows like I say. I mean, just because I won a couple of Super Bowls on Madden doesn't mean I know anything.
Right.
Playing on the I kind of boost up the artificial intelligence on there, but that's another story. But but the thing is, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pat. I'm sorry.
The only other candidates that's out there, possibilities. You prefer Deuce Staley over all of them?
I would like Deuce Staley. If not Deuce Staley, Eric Bieniemy. If they're thinking offense, because Lurie did say we're going to build an offense. We want an offensive-minded coach. But I also would like a coach that's mindful about defense and having a better defense, because Jim Schwartz was good at times. He did a good job of filling in a patchwork secondary, but they need something. That defense has no personality. Jordan, do you see a personality on that defense?
I haven't seen it in a while. I haven't seen one in a while, man.
Chris, last but not least, do you see both quarterbacks being there next year coming up?
Well, one of the things that Jeffrey Lurie said was that he has assets. Is that these guys are assets, and which means to me, my interpretation of that whoever they keep, and I think they probably lean towards Wentz, but you never know. They feel that they can get some value trade wise out of one of those guys, because I do think Hurts is going to be a good quarterback if you develop him right. And keep him, he's a motivated guy. He's not Dwayne Haskins. He's not necessarily a Vince Young. I mean, he's going to go and do the work. Okay, not that Vince Young in his case didn't, but there were some things that just didn't sit right. But the thing is, at the end of the day, I don't know how that's going to coexist, how those two guys are going to coexist with one another. I really do not. I really don't know.
Thanks a lot, man.
Okay.
I'm going to close out, get somebody else more time.
All right. Thank you, Pots and Pans. We got real quick Richard from North Philadelphia. Richard, what do you think of all this?
How you doing? Well, Chris, I think it's how you doing? Happy New Year to you and your producer, and I wish you and Denise the best of all. Well, I think that Jeffrey Lurie did what he had to do, in order to try to keep the team together, and try to help make the team better. Most of the time I didn't like Doug's play calling. Some of the time, I see here, in certain games, me myself, I like to have a team like to have an offensive coordinator rather than let the coach call all the plays. The only other coach I know who calls the plays is John Gruden, and like that. But as far as hiring black coaches, I heard Doc Rivers this week saying that the NBA needs to hire some more black coaches, too. Maybe some of your listeners did say that, too. And I'd like to see it in the National Football League. They have that thing called the Rooney Rule, which is supposed to interview a certain amount of black coaches, and like that. So, anyway, you can do that, interview them, hopefully not just as a token, but that's being real. They're serious about hiring black coaches, like you mentioned about Deuce Staley. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that they – go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, go ahead. What do you think about that? They need to enforce that Rooney Rule a little bit more.
I think they do, too, because the thing is, a lot of the ownership, like Deshaun Watson down in Houston, is upset over the fact that, they didn't – the owners of that franchise are really, they're the type of people who have they don't seem to be out of touch with their quarterback, with that team. Like, the worst thing that happened to them is that they trade DeAndre Hopkins to the Cardinals for Magic Beans, or a player named Magic Beans, for all I know. But the thing is that, you know, I think you do have a lot of coaches, a good minority, good coaches of color. I hate that term, minority, but you have good coaches of color who are good enough to, you know, to coach the team, who know their stuff. And to me, the Eric Bieniemy, who's helped Patrick Mahomes into becoming one of the best quarterbacks in the league, that's a guy that, you know, they should have brought in. But with the Rooney Rule, I think some coaches, some staff, some management know how to get around it. Some don't care. I mean, some, like Jacksonville, just said, you know, the heck with it. We're just going to bring this guy in, and that's the end of it. Let me see. So Jack hasn't called in yet. Okay, so
not yet.
All right, so I'll give him a gentle push to give him a call, but give us a call. But the thing is, at the end of the day, coaches have to. I mean, you know, if you're really serious about it, if you're really serious about it, they'll make that call and really find somebody who's qualified, not just as a token, not just say we're just going to interview a guy just to interview a guy, knowing that you probably don't have the possibility of bringing him in. I mean, the Eagles supposedly wanted to interview Todd Bowles, who's coaching the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, and they said they would accept a defensive-minded coach who knows how to find a good offensive coordinator to call the team. So that, I mean, we'll see. I mean, Jeffrey Lurie did want a question. That was going to be my question. You know, if they had gotten to me at the press conference, you know, I was going to say, what about, you know, people like Eric Bieniemy who don't get the opportunity and all that? So, you know, but they seem to be, you know, I think they're on the surface they're trying. I think. That's what I believe.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Okay. So and thank you for the call. So, you know, from that perspective, so from that perspective, the Eagles have a lot to, you know, to get a lot of guys to talk to. I just hope that they're going to have to figure out whether or not can they fix Carson Wentz. Can they fix him? If that coach who comes in here, I guess, because, you know, on the surface of it, or what we see is that, you know, basically Wentz wanted Peterson out. And basically Wentz has regressed as a quarterback. He's thrown interceptions. He has just not simply moved his team. And can anyone fix this guy? Okay. So, so from that perspective, let me see, who else do we have one before Jack comes in? We have Frank. Okay, so let's get to, so here's the thing. Let's get to Frank first. Real quick, Frank, and talk about Frank from West Philly, and then we're going to bring in Jack.
Real quick, you guys are the experts. I love football. Peterson was a bum as a coach, and everybody knows that. Number one.
He won a Super Bowl for you, though. That's the thing. How many coaches in Eagles history?
No. The offensive coach who went to Indiana.
Frank Wright. Yeah.
Bowl. Okay, let me finish.
Go ahead.
He was the head coach. He took the credit for it, but he didn't win anything. Number one, he was a bum since the Super Bowl because he hasn't won anything since the Super Bowl. Number one, Lurie, give Deuce Staley an opportunity. And that bum Jaworski said last night, well, I don't think Deuce is going to be in the running because he should have been able to go to other teams and learn the offense and defense. Jaworski, you was a bum in Philadelphia as a quarterback, okay? Number one. Two, give Deuce Staley an opportunity. And the only reason why you want is because he's African-American. The guy is a good – look, you can't bring, for example, Wentz in from college to the pros and not teach him the fundamentals. Look what Doc Rivers has done in 1 month with the Sixers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You got to, when you bring somebody in from college to the pros, is a whole different technique. And that idiot Chip Kelly tried to pull that mess. And look where it got him. Okay? It's a process. And Peterson should have been go. He was on the payroll a long time ago. I give Peterson credit. He got a salary for doing nothing. Okay? I'm glad he's going because now I renew my tickets with the Sixers because of Doc Rivers. And when the Eagles get a better coach to come in like a Deuce Staley with a good offensive coach and defensive coach, I will go back to the Eagles because right now Peterson is always. Everybody knows Peterson was a bum.
Not everybody thought that Peterson was a bum. Come on, he was a good coach. His players loved him.
Tell me what he won. The guy, the offensive coach, won the Super Bowl, and at that time the defensive coach won.
But you know what, though? He made the decision to bring those guys in there in the first place. He's the head coach. He helped craft that offense and improve those players. I mean, and they got guys in. I think Peterson did a better job. Do I question a lot of decisions he's made? Yeah. I don't think he's a complete bum. He's not Chip Kelly. I mean, and I think that he had a lot of obstacles to overcome, like injuries and all that. Thank you for the call, Frank. I really appreciate it. We got on the line from the Delaware County Daily Times. We have my man Jack McCaffrey. Jack, before I get into the Sixers and all that, I gotta get your view on the firing of Doug Peterson. I gotta get your view on that real quick because we all gotta go to break. But I gotta get your view on that really, really quick. What did you think of Doug Peterson's firing?
100% in favor of him being fired after he lost the team the way he did. You can't, after Jim Schwartz did the all fire and brimstone, you can't let them walk around our stadium wearing championship hats. And then the defense went out and played the way it did in that Week 17 game against Washington. And then to pull the rug out from under them and not give them a chance to win. And then 2 days later, Miles Sanders, who's probably the closest the Eagles have to a rising star of any sort, he comes out and basically blasts the coach. That was it was all over at that point. You can't not try to win and then also have the players realize you didn't try to win. And at that point, that was the tipping point. And at that point, Rory had no choice.
Yeah. I'm gonna ask you about the front office when we go. We got to go to break. Got to pay some bills, and I just want to say thank you for being here. But when we come back from the break, I want to ask you about the front office. What you think they ought to do, and then I'm gonna throw you a curveball and ask some Sixers questions because they seem to have their coaching situation a little bit together. It's early, so. We'll get that when we come back from the break. You're listening to 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURD, Black Talk Media. The Chris Murray Report will be right back.
Need a new mattress? Stop by to see Julian, the mattress man, located at 7421 Stenton Avenue. You deal directly with the owner, Julian, to ensure the best prices on name brand mattresses like Sealy, Posturepedic. Call 215-424-5550. That's 215-424-5550.
Hi, this is retired Judge Thomasine Tynes, inviting you to tune in this Sunday at 4 p.m. with the Judge and Jetty Show with attorney Jetty Newkirk. Learn about a lot of things you may just not know.
WURD Radio presents the following wellness tip to support our listeners with mindfulness and motivation as we continue to navigate the pandemic together.
Hi, this is Halana, your resident health and wellness coach with tips to help you stay well. We breathe every day and have been doing so since before we were born. But wait, let's think about this for a moment. Something as simple as breathing can enhance our health and well-being. When we breathe mindfully, we slow down, take deep breaths, and activate our parasympathetic system to relax our bodies. Mindful breathing goes like this. Number 1, find a comfortable place to sit still for a few minutes. Number 2, close your eyes and relax your hands on your thighs. Number 3, take a deep breath in and count to 3. Then exhale your breath and count to 3. Do this 5 times. We sometimes think mindful breathing has to be an intense experience, yet even just a few minutes a day can make a big difference. Go ahead and try it today. Stay well with WURD. Happy living.
Stay well with WURD. Connect with us at WURDradio.com. You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Okay, we are back. On the line with us is Jack McCaffrey from the Delaware County Daily Times, columnist, award-winning columnist. Jack, the front office situation. Now, one of the things, if you, like I was reading through Marcus Hayes' articles this week, and Marcus Hayes says that the front office imposed at least 77% of the assistant coaches on Doug Peterson. Can you talk about, I mean, does Howie Roseman have any responsibility in how this team broke down this year?
Of course. It would be senseless to not spread the blame around everyone. The players, the coaches, the front office. The front office has been really poor in recent years. The drafting has been remarkably ineffective, to the point where you say, what are they thinking? Top draft picks are failing or injured or ineffective. It's been bad. Difference between Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson, in my opinion, is that the Super Bowl championship honeymoon is well earned, and that I don't see that Roseman has done anything to diminish that. What Peterson did by choosing not to win a game, that's where I drew the line and said, okay, your Super Bowl honeymoon is over. I'm really about to my end of my clock with my patience on Howie Roseman too. But they did win a Super Bowl when he was here, so they're going to probably show him a little bit more patience. But yeah, it's been really bad. The drafting has been, and I'm not a draftnik. You and I have talked. I don't follow the college players as much as I should, so I trust whatever they draft at that point. And I always write and say on your show and everywhere else, I'll judge this draft 2-3 years down the line. Well, 2-3 years down the line, it's been awful. So there you go. I just judged it. Your draft has been awful, Howie. Awful.
Yeah. I was going to say, to me, the most glaring position, there's really two positions I think that are glaring. One is the receiver position. DK Metcalf, Justin Jefferson all had all-pro years, right? And when was and when was the last time, and correct me if I'm wrong, the last time the Eagles had an enforcer at linebacker, Jeremiah Trotter, how long ago was that? I mean, what is it with this franchise and not picking either great linebackers or just, I mean, they're good at defensive backs, Malcolm Jenkins and all that, but, it's just that they disregard the one position on the field that you should not disregard, in my opinion.
I couldn't agree with you more, Chris. You're always right there with the way I think the same idea. And there was a while back, there was some kind of analytic or something that showed that investing in linebackers was a poor way to spend your money. They bought into it. They think they can get by with the linebacker by committee or whoever they can bring in, or every once in a while they pay a guy of some sort. But their linebacking, Singleton was pretty good, though. He was good, but that's about it. Other than that, their linebacking is awful. It's been awful. And when you said they haven't had an enforcer linebacker since Jeremiah Trotter, I couldn't come up with one off the top. So it probably is. Probably since Trotter. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can't win. That's almost impossible. By accident, you're going to stumble across a guy.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that now, one more, I'm going to ask you one more Eagles thing about Carson Wentz. One more thing about Carson Wentz at the quarterback position. Carson Wentz basically, I mean, can he be fixed? I mean, can all of Howie's horses and all of Howie's men or Jeffrey Lurie's men put Humpty Wentz back together again? I had to throw that in there, man.
not Howie's men, not the Eagles. You and I have talked many times during the last football season, and 3 or 4 weeks in, I was on your show saying the way this is going to end is Jalen Hurts is going to be the quarterback. That's the way it is. You can't have 2 number 1 quarterbacks. You can only have one. They've got to pick one. Now, I suppose the next coach will have some say into it, whoever the next coach is. So, but to me, Jalen Hurts is your quarterback. Carson Wentz might be able to get fixed somewhere else. I have my doubts. He's been too injured. Maybe it was the concussion. He doesn't look focused. Didn't appear committed. He turns the ball over. The alarming thing about Carson Wentz, who they spent 2 first-round picks, a second, a third, and a fourth, and then basically gave him a max contract, is that if you look around, the quarterbacks younger than him are already passing him. Am I right? Like those guys,
right.
Young, Goff, and these guys are passing him, and he's yet to catch. Who's playing in the playoffs now? Brady, Breeze, Rodgers. Mahomes. Mahomes is a younger guy, so Mahomes has caught him. So he got picked. He never made it to what they thought he was. It's over. The next generation's already passing him. Jalen Hurts is better than him.
Wow.
He was squeezed. He's not going to make it. He's not going to be. Can he be a good quarterback? Sure. He's been a Pro Bowl quarterback, but was he worth two firsts, a second, a third, a fourth, and max money? Absolutely not. They want a quarterback. They want a Super Bowl without him.
Yeah. Wow, that's true. Well, changing gears, across the street, across the other side of the street, Doc Rivers. Sixers are 9-4, and people are coming up to me and say, I've not gotten out to a lot of games. I'm not live anyway. I've watched them here and there, but what kind of a difference has Doc Rivers made with this team? I mean, personnel-wise, they seem to be a lot better, and it just seems like these guys are at least in the first 13 games. They got a game tomorrow night, and it was just a long season. But what's different about this team, in your opinion?
Different players, for one thing, that's for sure. Now, listen, I'm a Doc Rivers guy. I always have been. I know people who know him, and the respect that he has as an X and O man and as a game planner is he's really at the top of his industry, and everybody knows it. So you knew that coming in. He's won a championship. They went out and got the best guy available. So that Doc Rivers is successful is not a surprise. But to answer your question, what's different? He's got different players. I think Daryl Morey had a lot to do with that. They weren't going to win with Josh Richardson and the players that they had last year. So better players. And by all means, a better spirit among the team. And why is that? I'd say some of it at least had to be the Brett Brown era was stale. It was going nowhere. It flattened, and it was just time for a change. So there was that involved. But also, the fact that Doc Rivers can really coach. So you see it among the spirit on the team and on the bench, which is heightened this year because there's nobody in the stands, so you can hear the players screaming and yelling more than you usually could. But there's a great spirit on that team right now.
Yeah, I was looking at some of the NBA team leaders and looking at some of the things. The Sixers are 9th in the league in points per game. They are 9th in assists per game. They're in the top 10 in those categories. They're in the top 10 in terms of steals per game. They're playing they're playing better on defense, and so and then you got guys like how did Shake Milton score 31 points in a game? I mean, guys you look at, and it seems like Tobias Harris is playing better. What about Embiid and Ben Simmons? And Ben Simmons is coming off a triple-double the other night. How are they, and how is Ben Simmons adjusting to the fact that they've talked about bringing James Harden, which I think would have been a humongous mistake. I wouldn't trade Ben Simmons. As much as I've criticized Ben Simmons, I ain't trading for Harden, not at all.
Okay, a lot to digest there. I'll skip through all of them. I would have traded Ben Simmons for James Harden, but I wouldn't have set off fireworks while I did it, because I understand where you're coming from. James Harden is a handful in a room. My goodness. He's got to take the last shot. He always starts to shoot the ball. He wormed his way out of Houston. He's going to be a real handful in Brooklyn. Let's see how that works. I would have traded Simmons for him because Simmons is a handful too. So he would have been traded one problem for another. But Embiid is, he's got the knee issue now, and this is a problem because he's already missed 2 games. He missed a half a game. Now he's going to miss the next 2 games. We're talking about a man who's, in his 7th year in the NBA?
Right.
Joel, you have to play. It's not going to happen if you don't play. When he has played, he looks dominant. Now, those last 2 games against Miami, that was almost, with the exception of Tyler Hero, that was a JV team or a G League team of some sort. They had no size. They had Jimmy Butler didn't play. Bam didn't play. Dragic didn't play. So it was a minor league team, and Joel Embiid just dominated. Whenever he decided he wanted to score, he could score. It almost reminded you of Kareem back in the day. So that's what those last 2 games showed you from Joel Embiid. But it's not NBA reality. Their schedule so far has been really weak, and you thought you were going to learn something with the Denver game, with the Brooklyn game, and with the 2 Miami games. Well, Miami basically ran out. I don't know what that was called. Brooklyn didn't have their best players. The Sixers lost anyway, and then the Sixers had nobody to face Denver, so that they got killed in that game. So I would just guard against making too many firm conclusions until this schedule firms a little bit. Let's see what they do on the road against LeBron on a night that's everybody's playing, things like that. But they have the right coach. They have the coach that can get them through this. And if Embiid is healthy, I've never seen him play better. That's the irony. But tell me that's not the Joel Embiid story. When he's healthy, he looks like the best player on the floor, but he's never healthy. So I don't wish bad health on the guy. I hope he comes back. But, hey, Joel, please, just play, will you?
Right. One final thing before we go to break and before I let you go. The Phillies, talking about baseball, and I'm going to definitely, before they go down to Florida, I'm definitely bringing you back for baseball. I've been following them through the off season. JT Realmuto has been offered a 5-year deal, supposedly worth around $100 million. Do you think he signs it?
Yes, I always thought he would, and I thought that he would because I try to look at a situation and then back it in. They would not have allowed Bryce Harper to wear a JT Realmuto shirt during batting practice, or to campaign as hard as he did for JT Realmuto, or for any of that to happen, and then embarrass him at the end of this whole thing by not signing him. They knew they were going to sign. You don't trade your best pitch. I have no problem trading your best pitching prospect for JT Realmuto. I have no problem with a trade that helps both teams. But you can't do that without having the money already set aside to re-sign Realmuto, and they have that money set aside. The situation economically in baseball may have suppressed the market just a little bit, and that could have been a boost to the Phillies. With Dombrowski, they have the best possible GM in place. They put the $100 million offer out in place. That's basically what JT Realmuto wanted. Harper has recruited him. All this show about bring back Realmuto was real. They knew it was going to happen, and I've never wavered on your show or anywhere else that I was convinced that they were going to bring him back. Now, when you see them prove me wrong, but I don't think so. He's going to be playing for the Phillies, and he darn should be, because again, you can't trade your top pitching prospect for a 2-year rental catcher. You had to commit to this guy. So that would be a help. The starting rotation is still a problem. The bullpen's a little improved.
Yeah. Well, Jack, on that note, I got to end. Although, when the next time I bring you, we're going to break down the bullpen, because that, 7-point-something ERA, last year, that was just the worst. So we'll bring that back. But Jack, thank you very much for being here today, as always, man.
Oh, you're welcome, and congratulations on your marriage to you and Denise. All the best.
Thank you, man. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, got to go to break. You're listening to 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURD. The Chris Murray Report will be right back.
You know that feeling? Like every door is closing and you just can't see a way out? Being unemployed, underemployed, or just out of school can feel like that. But when you find the right tools, suddenly everything just clicks. FindSomethingNew.org offers resources that help develop new skills that can position you for careers in today's growing industries, from healthcare and manufacturing to cybersecurity and alternative energy. Find your path to a new career at FindSomethingNew.org. A message from the Ad Council.
Announcing the Black Words Book Club, Word Radio's new monthly conversation on books that explore the African American experience through social, economic, and environmental justice issues. Tune in the second Tuesday of every month on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro, 4 p.m. till 7 p.m. The next book for February is Long Time Coming, Reckoning with Race in America by Michael Eric Dyson, a New York Times bestseller that traces the roots of racism from slavery and Jim Crow to police brutality. Be sure to listen live as Nick Taliaferro will hold a contest for a giveaway book bundle that consists of 4 titles from Kensington's Defina's Authors of Color's newest release. Don't miss it, February 9th on Evening Words with Nick Taliaferro. Attention for Word members. Get your copy and receive a 20% discount when you purchase at Harriet's Bookstore or Hakeem's Bookstore. For more information on the Black Words Book Club, visit wordradio.com. The Black Words Book Club is sponsored by Defina. Defina is an imprint of Kensington Publishing Corporation, America's independent publisher, concentrating on authors of color.
Lifting every voice till earth and heaven ring. This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media.
You're listening to Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Okay, we are back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, okay. So a couple of things. I right now, in this last hour that I have left on this show, I am opening up my, like I say, I need y'all to vet your spleen on anything. Eagles, Sixers, and tell me what you think. The Sixers are 9-4, 9-4 right now. It's early season. With all the corona, situation still going on, I can't wait till we get that vaccine in, Jordan, for a variety of reasons. Because one, it'll enable us. I come back to the studio again and all that. But I like the ability. That's why I thank God for technology and all that. And I'm gonna start playing with such things as Zoom and all that. Because I'm gonna have a day where I have a whole bunch of us on. We just gonna have at it for the whole show. We just gonna talk. Just gonna get into it. But
there you go.
The Sixers at this point are doing well. Looking at all the league leaders and all that, they are 9th in terms of assists per game. They're 5th in terms of total assists. And let me see, assist to turnovers. Well, they're not doing well in that category, but they're 3rd in the league in terms of rebounding, and so I see some good things there. It's early, though. It is early. We will see. I mean, Tobias Harris is playing better. And
much improved from last year.
Yeah.
Much more consistent.
And he's much more consistent. And that's Doc Rivers. That's Doc. I think that's Doc. And, there's a difference between having a good coach who knows how to win championships and has won a championship and been to – here's my thing. If you go deep into the playoffs, and even if you get to a championship and you don't win, I think, you still, in this era of, you got to win a championship, yeah, you do, but it doesn't negate, there are a lot of good coaches out there who don't always win it. Nowadays you got to have the talent to do it. So my thing at the end of the day is that, you have to, if you're making deep runs into the playoffs on a consistent year, you might get there, you might win it maybe once or twice in a 5 or 6 year period, or you get to the finals, maybe you lose 3 in a row, win 1. If you're getting a team there collective and through the playoffs, you're doing something. As long as you keep going, people used to get on the Eagles. well, they keep losing the championship game, but hey, you got to get there.
That's
Okay?
right.
You got to get there. I mean, you know, the Oakland Raiders back in the 60s and 70s, the Oakland Raiders went through a period of time where they got to the championship game every year and they would lose, but they eventually won one. But you can't, you know, my thing is, you know, you can't all, in this era, you have all these, you know, nouveau football fans, oh, well, he should be fired, you know, if we don't get to the Super Bowl. And there's a lot to do with that. I mean, in the Raiders' case, they played against some of the they were in a situation in the 70s where they had to play the dynasty of the Miami Dolphins and whatnot, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, and they finally broke through in that decade with those teams. You know, because they played in one of the toughest eras, I think. You know, growing up in terms of football. I mean, you have all those great Steelers teams. You have a lot of good teams in the league in them days. So, you know, that's one thing. But the numbers are 215-634-8065, 1-866-361-0900. And the Eagles, okay, I had Jack on, we had some other people. You know, who was the fault? Who is ultimately, in your opinion, ladies and gentlemen, whose fault is this? Is this Howie Roseman's fault? Is it Doug Peterson's fault? Jack Mason makes a good point. In that game, I mean, you know, that game when they just, Nate Sudfeld, you just wanted to take a look at Nate Sudfeld. You had that guy for 4 years. Really? Oh, we just want to take a, no. Bad decision. Horrible decision. Horrible. Terrible.
That's what got me to say he needs to go.
Yeah.
That one moment right there.
At one moment. Because they could have you could have knocked Washington out of the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of the NFC East rivalries, you know, most Philadelphians don't particularly like that. We all hate the Cowboys. So they all hate the Cowboys.
Right.
And they don't like the Giants or the Washington team, the artists formerly known as the Redskins. They don't like those guys either. And my thing, at the end of the day, although I thought Giants fans were hilarious and feigning outrage, your team finished 6-10. 6-10.
I hope they saw what happened to Washington now.
Yeah, 6-10. And Washington actually played pretty well in that game against Tampa Bay, but Lord have mercy. I mean, it was just the division was bad. The Cowboys, well, I don't know what the Cowboys are going to do. The Cowboys have all that offense. They have all that offense, but they too were bad on defense.
Yeah,
and the NFC East used to be good at defensive teams playing defense guys. You always had all the NFC East teams back in the day had at least one guy who was your big defensive player, or some guy like they had Darryl Green, Lawrence Taylor, Reggie White, Clyde Simmons, cats like that. I mean, you know, you had all those guys in those days. Nowadays, one team in the Eagles doesn't believe in having an enforcer at the linebacker position. You know, they still don't like to run the football here. Why do we get coaches that don't believe in the run? And I'm not saying, everybody says, oh, this is a passing league. Yeah, it's a passing league until you get to the fourth quarter of a playoff game and all that. I mean, you saw Lamar Jackson last week basically run Tennessee out of the playoffs. I mean, and you saw Tennessee last year run the Ravens out of the playoffs. So, you know, you still need to run the ball and all this fancy damn passing stuff. Yeah, you need to pass. Like tonight, I'm going to talk about the playoff matchups tonight. I got Jordan, I got to ask you. So Jordan, okay, so you got tonight, you got Green Bay and Los Angeles. I think the Rams defense is good enough to win that game.
They shocked me against Seattle last week. I thought Seattle was going to pull it off. But, hey, man. But, I mean, I think the Rams are going to... Honestly, I think the Rams are going to pull an upset somehow. And it's going to be, like you said, it's going to be their defense that's going to pull it off as well. It's going to be their defense. They got to stop Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, Aaron Donald's got to get back there.
Yeah, and like I say, you got Ramsey, Jaylen Ramsey in the secondary.
And you know what? I saw something on Instagram not long ago about like Jaylen Ramsey's stats, like through like all the weeks in the regular season and stuff. Hang on, I'm gonna bring it up real quick. Because,
pull that up.
Yeah,
pull it up. Because that guy, I wonder how many pass defenses that he has. Because you can't pass on it. You can't pass on that guy.
That's right. All right. All right, I got it up. So, let's see. Wide receivers when guarded by Jaylen Ramsey this season. We got Amari Cooper first. Week 1, 7 catches, 57 yards. Stephon Diggs, week 3, 1 catch, 4 yards, and a touchdown. Just 4 yards, Stephon Diggs.
Stephon Diggs.
Yep. And then Terry McLaurin, week 5, 0 catches.
Wow.
Allen Robinson, week 7, 1 catch, 42 yards. Mike Evans, one of the best in the league, 4 catches, 40 yards. Week 13 and week 17, DeAndre Hopkins, 5 catches, 48 yards. And then week 10, DK Metcalf, 4 catches, 44 yards.
See, that's defense, okay? Yep. That's why, like I say again, their offense, like I said, their offense is, but if you run the football, and this is what I was saying, a lot of times if your quarterback is not that good, like when Baltimore in 2000 had Trent Dilfer, who, all he did was kind of manage things. They had Ray Lewis and those guys killing everybody. Ravens, when they won their first Super Bowl, did not have a great offense. I mean, they had Kadri Ismail and a couple of other guys named Sam and Jamal Lewis. That's the thing. They had Jamal Lewis, and they could run the ball. Sometimes that's all you need. Yep. That's all they got is a defense. Well, that's all you need. You know what I'm saying?
That's it.
I mean, sometimes that's all you need in the game. And so my thing at the end of the day, that's a playoff run like that. And see, the Eagles, I'm gonna bring this back. I'm gonna bring this back to Philly. I'm gonna say this. We talk about that game the last part of the season. One of the things that often bothered me about Doug Peterson, and I said this like earlier in the day. I basically said that, a lot of the problems, of all the problems that offensive line had, for all their problems, running the ball, I don't care. I've watched enough football over the years. I go back to the late 1960s, and I'm a football history geek, okay? I will watch games. I will pull out a year. And I know everybody in the hipster world, hipster sports world of ESPN and people like us. Oh man, you pulled out something from back in the day. I remember 1965. Now I was only 3, but because I read and I study these things. The Baltimore Colts lost 2 quarterbacks, Johnny Unitas and their backup. They had to rely on a guy who was a team halfback. Okay. They had to run the ball well and play defense. They got into the playoffs, and if it wasn't for a horrific call at the end of that, in them days it was the Western Conference playoff, and the Packers, the guy from the Packers, the kicker Don Chandler missed the field goal. Field goal was wide right. Okay, if you ever go on YouTube and see the film of that game, he blatantly missed it. They called it good. Okay, which is why the goalposts, you ever know why the goalposts are high as they are, was because of that game. Because for some reason the ref couldn't tell whether or not, because the goalposts used to be kind of short off in the sky. But the thing is, that team adjusted by running the ball and whatnot. If you can't pass block, you can't. Sometimes if you don't have your best quarterback, or you have an average quarterback, sometimes you got to run that ball to take the pressure off that quarterback, because a lot of times, and that's what the Rams are doing. The Rams are doing this in the playoffs. The Rams figure, Jared Goff is not that good a quarterback. Sorry, he just is. Plus, he's hurt.
And he's just about average. That's it.
He's average. He is average. They can run the ball and they can play defense. And like I said again, you know, we used to rail on the Eagles. Oh, they don't have any receivers, and it was true. But they had a good running game that, you know, when Deuce Staley was the starting running back for this team, Deuce Staley and, good Lord, there was a couple of, with Westbrook, and there was another guy, a kid out of Nebraska whose name escapes me right now. But Correll Buckhalter. Mm-hmm. They could run the football. Reed didn't do it enough. If they did it enough in the Carolina game, the game where McNabb had busted up ribs and all that, they win that game. But Deuce Staley had like 13 carries for 79 yards, which means it was working. But, you know, Reed stubbornly kept trying to pass, you know, to a receiving corps that got punked. They got punked. Todd Pinkston, James Thrash, they got punked in that game against Carolina. And everybody said, oh, it's all McNabb's fault. No, those receivers got punked in that game. Remember that game I remember that game like it was yesterday. They couldn't do nothing. His only target was, and plus McNabb was just hurt. You know, he couldn't run around like he had a rib injury. But the thing is that, you know, you got to run that ball. And I don't care if this is a passing league or not. Sometimes running the ball will help you in that passing game. It'll help you come with those play-action passes, get guys up. When you beat up a team, is the equivalent of boxing, where you just go to a guy's midsection. And you keep going to his midsection. After a while, he can't lift them arms. You know, a guy or them legs get kind of shaky. Then you can go upside his head, and boom, he's out. Which is why they tell you in boxing, when you get a guy hurt, I'll just punch myself in the face. When you get a guy hurt, you get a guy hurt and everything, you go to the body, okay? You got to take, because that's your way of taking, you muss up his body enough, them legs are going to fall. Them legs can't stand. And the rest and everything else will follow. And a lot of times when you run the football, when you wear a team, when you get into the fourth quarter of the game, this is the thing that when the Ravens played Tennessee, that I was always worried about in that game was that if the Titans were up and you got Derrick Henry in there, it's over. You know, it's over. You got any good, powerful running back like that in the game. You know, the Chiefs are getting Clyde Edwards-Helaire back this week. Okay, the Browns, that's another team, another matchup to watch. The Browns, as silly and ignorant as we sometimes think of the Browns, Baker Mayfield, they're a good football team. You gotta give those guys props. That's a good football team. I mean, you got Nick Chubb, you got Kareem Hunt, and if they get on you, if they happen to get up, what they gotta do is keep Patrick Mahomes' butt on the field. I mean, on the sideline watching the game. That's what they gotta do.
Yep.
Okay, because that's going to be one of those games. I mean, Kansas City is going to light up the scoreboard.
Oh yeah.
And they're going to make Baker Mayfield have to keep him. Baker's gotten better, but Baker will be good in that game if they can run the football. And that's going to be the thing I think determines that game. That's going to be an entertaining game to watch.
Yeah,
of course, you know, huh?
I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. I actually kind of want the Browns to win, actually.
Yeah.
Just because I know what their fan base be going through. No Super Bowl for like a really long time.
Right. They've never won the Super Bowl. Last time they won what they call the old NFL, before the NFL-AFL merger. They won the 1964 NFL championship game against my Baltimore Colts back in the day, 27-0, when they used to when they used to alternate home sites. They were like the World Series. You know, even though the Colts had a better record, they had to go to Cleveland because it happened to be in Cleveland that year, because it was the Eastern Division versus the Western Division. The Colts were in the Western Division. That's a long story how they ended up in the Western Division. But in them days, that's what happened, and Browns won. It was a close game in the first half. Browns won the game in the second half. Sometimes that happens. But that was the last time the Browns went through, in the late 60s, they lost to the Cowboys a couple of times, lost to the Colts in the championship game, and the Vikings. Then in the 80s, couldn't get past Denver. And I'm gonna tell you something. I even though I think the Ravens came out of Cleveland and all that, I like those Cleveland Brown teams back in those days, and I felt bad for Ernest Biner because that second one in which Biner fumbled the ball. Ernest Biner fumbled the ball. The Browns were down big in the first half, and they just fought back. And you just could. I mean, it was almost like. I wasn't even a fan in them days, and I was just like, damn, you felt bad because they worked their way back against Elway and them, and that one play, Jeremiah Castile from the Broncos made a brilliant play because, like I said, Biner was about to score, and I think it was late in the game, that would have shifted momentum. So they had all those years of just coming, and then of course Mardell moves the team down the ball, which I didn't think was right, but. You know, Baltimore has a team, but the thing about it, you know, you like to see the people root for the Browns because they haven't won anything, and Cleveland's a football town. This is the state of Ohio State, and since the Buckeyes lost, they got although, like I say again, it was still a successful year, but the thing is that at the end of the day, you gotta win those games. So that's going to be an entertaining match. Tonight's game, two young guns, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. That's going to be a tough game. Anybody can win that game. The Bills happen to have home field playing in Buffalo. I don't know what the weather is like, but that's going to be a tough game tonight because that's going to be two teams that I think that are going to, there are two young quarterbacks that'll be battling each other for years to come. And Lamar Jackson, being the fatalist fan that I am of the Baltimore Ravens, is my hometown. Because it's my hometown, I'm as fatalist as any. I don't know, man. You worry about how they're going to defend Jackson and all that, but I think the Bills have a good team. They're well balanced. Stephon Diggs is the man. Stephon Diggs. If the Vikings would have liked to have had Stephon Diggs back because they got Justin Jefferson, but I think Justin Jefferson is, was kind of making people forget Stephon Diggs. But Stephon Diggs is still a man, and that's going to be, like I said, we're going to have some interesting games on a playoff schedule tonight. But I want to go back to a couple of things. I want to go back to so what kind of a coach, Jordan, as an Eagles fan? And I want everybody to weigh in on this. 215-634-8065. I want y'all to weigh in on this. What kind of a coach would you want to come to coach this team? What type of a coach? What do you want? What do you want to see change offensively or even defensively with a new coach?
So I want to focus on the defensive side. So here's the thing. I remember back in the days, I think the only time we had a legit defense was when we had a legit secondary was when we had Shelton Brown, Lito Shepherd. Two lockdown secondary corners. And then also, had Brian Dawkins. Yeah, Brian Dawkins at safety position. So I think I want more so a defensive minded coach because we haven't really had a good defense back in the day. Since then. So I think a defensive minded coach would be perfect, but even though we could have a defensive coordinator, maybe Eric Bieniemy just be a defensive coordinator since he's defensive minded and everything. But I also wouldn't mind having Deuce Staley. I actually want Deuce Staley, and actually the players want Deuce Staley too. So that would also make sense.
I think Deuce makes sense to a sense that I think Deuce would find somebody on the defensive side. I think Deuce wants to run that football.
Right.
Miles Sanders could be a great running back in this league, even at his size. I think he could, and I think he's a versatile back. if you don't want Miles Sanders to carry it on every play, then you find somebody else. But still, he has to be in the offense because that guy can catch the ball out of the backfield. I mean, he can do it all. And I do believe that if you get him, I think that the Eagles need to tweak the offense. The quarterback position, they have to decide what they're going to do with Carson Wentz. If they can fix Carson Wentz, and quite frankly, I don't know how, but if they can fix Carson Wentz to be, have him maybe bring him in with the understanding that he's Jared Goff, okay, that he's just going to kind of manage, the team, then, that's where we have to go. So, got to go to break. So, like I say, ladies and gentlemen, when we come out to finish, I want to hear from everybody on this, what they should do, what the Eagles ought to do, and so we get back, we'll talk about that. You're listening to 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURD. The Chris Murray Report will be right back.
Hey, Word family, Reverend Leroy with a boss good recommendation for Clark Roofing. I found them to be a solid business, honest, dependable, fast, and clean workers. Mr. Clark stands by his work. Call him at 215-365-7663.
Call Clark Roofing and ask for a second-generation master roofer, Calvin Clark. Clark Roofing professionally installs a variety of roofing systems for your home or businesses. Call Clark Roofing at 215-365-7663 or visit their website
at clarkroofingpa.com. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in his own words. Brought to you by Pico, Keystone Plus, Premium Nutrition Meals, and JD's Auto Body and Painting. The immortal words of Dr. King.
What I'm saying to you this morning, my friend, even if it falls your lot to be a street sweeper, go on out and sweep streets like Michelangelo painted pictures. Sweep streets like Handel and Beethoven composed music. Sweep streets like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Sweep streets so well that all the hosts of heaven and earth will have to pause and say, here lived a great street sweeper who swept his job well. If you can't be a pine on the top of a hill, be a scrub in the valley, but be the best little scrub on the side of the reel. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. It isn't by size that you win or you fail. Be the best of whatever you are. And when you do this, you've mastered the length of life.
Brought to you by Pico, powering communities, Keystone Plus, Premium Nutrition Meals, and JD's Auto Body and Painting for all your auto body and detailing needs. Livelihood, the new initiative from WURD Radio, connecting Philadelphians to jobs, entrepreneurship opportunities, small business resources, and financial literacy. Visit WURDworks.com right now and take the next step in your professional journey. Livelihood is supported by the Nightland Fest's Local News Transformation Fund, Borealis Philanthropies Racial Equity and Journalism Fund, and the Solutions Journalism Network. You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Okay, we are back. First of all, wanted to talk, like I said, we are still talking about Eagles, who they should pick as a coach. What do you want to see from this team moving forward? As these guys get themselves ready for next year. Okay, what did you think of the firing? 215-634-8065, 1-866-361-0900. Looking to get your feelings on this in the next 32 minutes that we have left on the show today. So, like I said, Jordan and I were having a conversation about this being a defensive-minded team. Whether you get an Eric Bieniemy who's the offensive coordinator with the Chiefs, whether you get one of those guys or not, this defense needs an attitude, man, because the defense didn't scare anybody that's the thing that gets me this year. The defense always has somebody who was an intimidator or somebody, like I said, Brian Dawkins or somebody like that. This team did not, always had some guy that was just like, I'm like I said, which one of y'all the referee? Because I'm gonna kill the quarterback, I'm gonna kill the running back, and I'm gonna eat his lunch too. And you need somebody like that, on your defense. We have Sultan from North Philadelphia. What's going on, Sultan?
Hey, my brother, what's happening, man? New Year's greetings to you, and as always, a very good show.
Thank you. What's happening?
Well, my choice would be to go with Deuce. I give Deuce the job. I mean, you played for this team. You've been a coach with this team almost 10 years. You've been in the organization. You know the players of the last 4 or 5 years. And then you let him surround himself with a top offensive coordinator, someone that can give a better defensive scheme to meet the players that we got, because the scheme that Schwartz had was just ridiculous, playing 10 yards off every time you see a receiver. So right. I would try that. And then let him manage this club, because I think he could manage the club, and the key is managing the players. And I think you wouldn't have to create a whole new culture with him. I think it would be a continuation now with him in the leadership.
That's an interesting thing that you're right. I mean, he seems like, and it seems like Deuce would get the right people. It's just because, like I said, he's a tough guy who, I think he likes to run the football, and I think that I think that he's the type of coach that will want to see the Eagles be a little bit more physical, right, on both sides of the football, because I think that you can come up with all the little read options, and that's cool, but if you're not tough on both sides, if you don't have that offensive and defensive lines on both sides of the football, you're not going to win. And because what often bothers me about this team and a lot of Philadelphia area teams, is that they got one great player on the other side, but you need on one side of the offense, but you need other guys. Like in the 80s and 90s, they were a great defensive squad, but lacked offense. And in the 2000s, they've been a great offensive team, but defense has been rather ordinary to just bad. And so, from that standpoint, I get that aspect. I get where you're coming from.
Let me just add this last point to that. And then I would look at, the type of players, drafting players. I mean, we're stuck with Howie, Roseman, but you gotta go get some big. This conference was always smash mouth football, big linemen, big running backs, then the speed back, and then tall receivers, and then that fast small receiver. We've been drafting a whole lot of little running backs. We don't have I know the teams don't play the fullback concept no more, but you still need sometime that other blocker behind the line to get that back into that hole and then let him do his thing. Plus, I would like to get some, receivers with some speed, but I would also get some receivers with a little height here. And then you said it earlier, it is ridiculous that we have not drafted linebackers. I mean, it is the most ridiculous thing. And then this guy's been bargain basement. I know why Jeffrey loved him, because he saved him a lot of money with a lot of bargain basement players he done brought in here. But we're going to have to go and spend some paper, man, and get some of these guys in here.
I would agree. I would definitely agree, because they haven't had a presence on defense. When I say presence, there's an attitude. There's an attitude, like I was jokingly telling, Jordan, like the old thing, old Richard Pryor said, he said, which one the referee? Because I'm going to kill the other guy. You need that attitude. You need that. You need that guy on the field, because
that's right.
Because the thing is, like I said, one of the things that people would say about the Eagles back in the day was that, hey, you had Randall, and if Randall had not been hurt during the '91 season, when Randall got hurt and the Eagles' defense was like the best in the league, they would have won that Super Bowl. I'm telling you, they would have won the Super Bowl.
You remember the first part of this season, that one linebacker, I can't even think of his name. I think he was 49. I got 2 bad knees, and he couldn't tackle me. I mean, he was in the wrong position every time I turned around, man. I mean, so we got to do something better. But give Deuce the job, man. He talk about he want to look at extremely good minority coaches. Well, you got one sitting right on your staff. Been the assistant coach last year. Been the running back coach. Been running the ball for this team. Should go to the team's Hall of Fame, if not even further. But the point is, you got the player in your house. Make him the coach, then let him build the army that he needs to get this job done. That's my word.
Thank you very much, Sultan. I mean, thanks for the call. The thing is that you need attitude on defense. You need, like I say again, you need a defense to say, I'm going to sack the quarterback. One of the things that that Chase Young did for the Washington team last week, and even though, like I say again, Washington is my natural rival and all that, is that he came at Brady, said, Mr. Brady, I'm going to come see you. And he came, and a lot of people got mad at him. You know, Jordan, I mean, a lot of people got mad. But, you know, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at a guy who's going to come out and say, because, you know, what is he going to say? Well, geez, he's just a good player. No, sometimes you got to come out in the field and, like, you got to come up to that bully of a team, whatever. They got all the superstars. You got to come out. Because my thing is, if they're really that good, they don't need no bulletin board material. I mean, they're good. But you got to fire yourself up to play. You can't go in there. You can't go in there. Well, we know we really respect Tom Brady. Yeah, you respect him. But you got to go out there and give him a butt whooping.
It's like, nah, we ain't got no friends out here. We ain't making friends out in the field.
Ain't no friends in the field. You go out because, listen, football is like boxing. Mm-hmm. Like boxing in the sense that your object is to dominate your opponent and basically give him a butt whipping along those lines.
Right.
You're gonna get to the quarterback. You're gonna try to stuff him and stop him, make it hard for him to throw the ball in the air. I don't want no guy coming in mealy mouth like, oh, you know, he's just a great quarterback and. You know, no, you gotta come up to Brace, man. We coming in there and we gonna kick your ass. Excuse my French. We gonna come in there and give you a butt whipping. That's the attitude you gotta have. You gotta have that. You gotta have that attitude. We come to get y'all, okay? Like I say again, I don't want to hear this bulletin board material stuff. You know what? You're paid. You know, even if I'm the favorite. I'm coming out there. We coming after y'all, and y'all coming after us. Okay, that I understand. And that's that's the street. And like I say again, that's the street thing. That's the thing that we all grew up. You know, we had guys in the neighborhood. I'm sure you had guys. Yeah, I'm gonna dominate all of y'all. Okay, all right. Well, let's see. You know, and you got to come back, and you got to be able to. You know, this is the thing you got to do, and. My problem, and don't get, like I say, you know they lost, but you know what though? You know, I can tell you the story. The first Super Bowl, you know, Fred Williamson, you know, the guy, you see Fred Williamson, for those of us who grew up in the 70s, Three the Hard Way with Jim Brown, they were all, you know, your favorite blaxploitation movies, but Fred Williamson was a heck of a football player. And he came out against the Green Bay Packers, although everybody was scared, said, yeah, I'm the Hammer. He was known as Fred the Hammer Williamson because in the days when football players could hit you and could clothesline you, head slap you, and do all this other stuff, he had this way, he had the hammer, where he basically would grab you and come around with his right elbow, no, with his right forearm, and club you as he tackled, because those were the days in which defensive backs could do anything they wanted to wide receivers, which they could, you know, some of the things that defensive backs in the 60s and 70s did to wide receivers, and I would say for you Cowboys fans, check Super Bowl 10 between the Steelers, Mel Blount, and Golden Richards. They could do stuff to receivers that would have you arrested in this day and age. I mean, you'd be arrested for assault for what some of the DBs, Jack Tatum, who played with the Raiders, Mel Blount, who played with the Steelers, and Larry Wilson, who lost his whole teeth. This dude for the Cardinals, he was the guy who made the safety blitz famous, right? Mm-hmm. This guy lost his whole front teeth. He lost 2 of his front teeth. You ever see pictures? Number 8 for the Cardinals. Look, you YouTube. You young, look at them. Some of these guys played like that. And that's why I say, for half the stuff, those guys did, you could go to jail for. That's how tough those guys were. I may be exaggerating slightly, but the thing is that, you need that kind of toughness on the field. You need that kind of toughness. And it's the same thing. I would like to see Joel Embiid in basketball. Will come in and beat the presence in the middle on defense. That's one of the things I liked about Shaq. Shaq stood in the middle and said, all right, come through here, and I dare you to come through here. You need that. You need somebody that's going to say, you know what, like I said earlier, like I said, which one of y'all, if you wearing striped shirts, you're good. The rest of y'all, I'm gonna kill your whole backfield. I'm going to kill everybody until I get to your quarterback. That's how you got to have it. And that's one thing I think has been missing from the Eagles in almost a decade. I mean, not, like I said again, you had Jeremiah Trotter. Mm-hmm. You had guys like that. This Eagles team, this is not Philly. Come on. Philly, like I say again, between the boxing gyms and the football field, this is tough guy territory. You need guys on that field. They used to always say in boxing, the Philly boxers' best fights are in the gym because everybody's fighting and scrapping to get out. And when the Eagles had that defense, Reggie White, Clyde Simmons, Jerome Brown, and all those guys on that team, you had Seth Joyner. When you had those guys, on that team, those guys come in there and knock you out, and then and then ask questions later. I still remember the famous body bag game where it was just between them and Washington on Monday night. They put all the Washington quarterbacks out of the game until Brian Mitchell Brian Mitchell became the quarterback of Washington that day. It was a Monday night game. And they were just hitting people, bam, And this team, is for all the team's offense, Donovan, T.O., whomever, for all this team's offense, this team was basically known as a team for defense. We got to go to break. You're listening to 96.1 FM, not your AM, WURD, the Chris Murray Report. Will be right back.
Hi, this is retired Judge Thomasine Tynes, inviting you to tune in this Sunday at 4 p.m. with the Judge and Jetty Show with attorney Jetty Newkirk. Learn about a lot of things you may just not know.
Want the latest in WURD swag? Check out the shop tab on WURDradio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on WURDradio.com. Show the world that you're all about black. Talk media. You're listening to WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD, independent black media.
Okay, we're back already. Okay, good. Well, but like I said again, so, the Eagles, that's what they have to do. They're going to consider minority coaching candidates, I still say get Eric Bieniemy. I think get Eric Bieniemy, if nothing else, you have a good offensive-minded coach, and you'll have a coach, I think, that'll move the football. They'll help those guys, like I said, look at Patrick Mahomes. But the question is, if they keep, and I guess they have to keep Carson Wentz here, is that will Carson Wentz be that quarterback he was in 2017 until he got hurt? Can all the King's horsemen and all the King's men put old Carson Wentz back together again? That's an interesting question because we don't know that. I mean, how much is I don't know. I would like to know what Carson Wentz's psyche is right now. I would like to know where his psyche is and all that, because he's and having Jaylen Hurts on the roster. Does that hurt him? But like I said again, he was ineffective. He was ineffective last year, and for most of the time until late in the season. And this year he has been a disaster, having tossed interceptions in about at least 9 of the 12 games he started. Doing 15 interceptions. 15 interceptions. You can't have that. You cannot have that in the game. 215-634-8065. 1-866-361-0900. Love to hear from you. We got plenty of phone lines open, and we got plenty of phone lines open, plenty of lines. We love to hear from you, and love to talk to you and get you to vent your spleen on these things. Your Philadelphia 76ers. I feel like playing the Sixers theme. Everybody, Philadelphia, So I'm not going to sing that on the air, obviously, but the thing is, the Sixers are playing well. God give it to them. Right now, Doc Rivers has those guys playing. I mean, already, early in the season, you see the break. You see the difference. I mean, this was a team last year that even if they had a lead, didn't have the mental toughness to hang on to that lead. And that's where we want to see, what's going on. I mean, as they get to have theirs, they have to play LeBron James's and some of the other teams when Brooklyn becomes full strength, to play the Celtics. Where is this team in terms of playing, some of those guys? They had kind of a little bit of a soft schedule. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I mean, Jordan, I like I say again, I want to see this when they really are in a game. Okay, I want to see their backs against the wall. And when they're playing really good teams, I want to see how well they perform.
Yep, need to see them play Boston, the Lakers, Clippers. Yep, all those teams.
Toronto, and all those teams. They're just as good as they are. We want to know the worth of Doc Rivers' presence. We're already seeing it. Like I say, Tobias, Tobias Harris is already, playing pretty good and whatnot. And he understands the role is not to be the lead scorer, but he's going to get his. He's going to get his 3-pointers. Having Seth Curry, who's shooting 53%. That's right. From 3-point range, Lord knows this team needs guys that can hit that three.
Seriously, that Seth Curry pickup is great.
Yeah, and you got to basically have guys that can just fill it up, because let's face it, teams aren't going to let Joel Embiid, and Ben Simmons penetrate the lane more often. You're not going to see that happen, and so. From that standpoint, you really got to have that balance on both sides of the ball, so to speak. You really have to do that, and I'm pleased with what I've seen so far. I haven't seen every game, but I've seen the games that I've watched, the games that I've viewed. It's like, okay, I see they move the ball around a little bit better. They play a little bit better on defense and all that. And who knows? That might be, maybe we're pushing it. Maybe we're pushing it to the point to where, maybe we're maybe, Sixers fans are so full of hope and they want something to go right that they'll just say, okay, let's give this guy a pass, or let's just cheer him on and all that. But at the same time, fans want to be able to see a team that's competitive and that can play. And that's the only thing. What Brett and this team can hold on to leads. I mean, once they're up on teams, I've not seen them blow leads like they did last year.
Yeah,
like the Phillies bullpen.
If they're down, they actually shown the ability. Like when they're down, they can come back.
Yeah, and that's because Doc Rivers is a junkyard dog of a coach. He's going to instill some fight into those guys. That's right. And when he does, that's going. When you got a talented team that has dog and has fight in them, then they're going to be, it's over. That's right. And what fans want from their team is to basically, hey, is to basically come out and just be that kind of dog for their team, because at the end of the day, man, I mean, it's just you need guys to be tough on both sides of the ball. I mean, you need guys to be tough defensively, offensively. You need these guys to play at a certain level. So the Sixers, I'm not so much worried about, at least right now. We'll see how everything shakes itself out, okay? And the colleges, I think Temple is still playing. Temple, Villanova. Villanova's always a contender in the Big East. So we'll see. So I'll talk more about the college game next week. But what I will say, looking at everything tonight, looking at how to fix the Eagles, we just mentioned the linebacker position. We just mentioned the fact that this team has not, looked at the linebacker position with any clear, with any clarity, so to speak. It just have not found a guy who's going to, who's going to pull this, who's going to basically be that face. Because much as we like to say, and by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we got about 5 minutes left. 215-634-8065, and 1-866-361-0900. One of the things that I like to see out of this Eagles team on defense is to have an attitude, to have, like I say again, have that killer instinct, when to knock guys out, knowing when to put teams out of their misery, okay? So we have Rob from North Philly. Rob, go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, brother. How are you?
I'm doing okay, man.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. Look here, man. I'm with Sutan on Deuce Stanley, but I also like Eric Bieniemy also. I think he would be a great upgrade. And with what's going on, offense is what's determining what's happening with this organization, because that's how Doug got fired. Right. The offense started to sputter. And it was basically because of the quarterback. Like, everything is linked. If he had a good year, or just a decent year, Doug wouldn't be fired. We wouldn't be having this conversation right now. But because he flopped so bad, and I think it's mental. I really don't believe it's repairable. It's almost similar to a Ben Simmons jump shot. It's in his brain. You need some kind of shrink or something to sit these guys on the couch and tell them when you got to throw the ball when it's breaking down quick. So to the the hot run quick. You can't wait for the big play or the one that we called in the huddle. You got to, you know what I'm saying? So those type of things are mental. And if he doesn't get past that, the next coach is going to have a problem. And then it's going to start over again, because we're going to wind up getting another quarterback. Because I don't think Hurt's going to be able to outlast what's going to happen within the organization going through this Wentz thing, this Wentz debacle.
Right. I mean, you're right about that, because I think that, I'm wondering, is he fixable? I mean, because if you let go the coach, I guess the front office is assuming, well, if we had a better head coach, and maybe he might have a better quarterback. But the problem was he had injuries on offensive line, receivers were hurt, Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson, might as well be on a carton of milk. I mean, and I'm not trying to trivialize missing children. Don't get it twisted. I'm not offending anybody when I say that. But you might as well fill out a missing persons report for this guy, because it's just that, if you're not on, like I said, the best ability, Rob, the best ability is availability. Because you got to play. And if guys aren't on the field, and who knows, that probably hurt Carson for that. I mean, looking at it objectively, I think it hurt him a little bit. But from what I understand, in the locker room, he wasn't necessarily popular amongst his teammates.
that was going on last season when someone sneaked that information to that reporter and everybody.
Joe Samacquito,
yeah, and it probably was him. But if you notice, when Hurt was playing, look how much better Alshon looked when Hurts was playing.
Mm-hmm.
You see, it was a different dynamic in there, and certain receivers feel they feed better off of different quarterbacks. And I just don't think Wentz is that guy anymore, even if he had the weapons, with the wrong offensive coordinator. Because with the injuries, you have to coordinate different type of plays to help, your progression during the play because you don't have the weapons and the protection. So you got to have quicker reads, quicker runs, more running, things like that. And those things didn't happen. So unless you get a guy that can think on his feet, which you haven't had in a while, and just be able to adapt and adjust during, timeouts and in the quarters, then it's not going to work. I think Hurts is going to be an answer because he can move, he's mobile, and if he get a weapon, it'll make him look that much better. It no matter who the coach is. But thanks for letting me talk, brother.
No problem. And see, that's all a part of it. I mean, in terms of mobile quarterbacks, you can't be a statue. The days of Drew Brees and Tom Brady are coming to an end. Even although Brees himself is mobile enough to look around by time. Okay? So I would think that if you bring in a Lincoln Riley, who coached him at Oklahoma, I would like to think that if the organization decides, you know what, we had enough of Carson, let him go, I think that, I still think, it may not be here, I think that Jalen Hurts can be a good starter in this league. I think, if you fully commit to the guy, the way that the Bills committed to a guy like Josh Allen or the Ravens committed to Lamar Jackson, in other words, even if they feel like they got to alternate whatever playing philosophy they have, you got to do it if you have that kind of faith in your talent and all that, and you have to have it. Because at the end of the day, it's, this is where we're going to be. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the end of our show today. I want to thank everybody for being here with us today. Those who called in, Jack McCaffrey, people who called in earlier today. We'd like to thank you guys. We will see you next week on the Chris Murray Report, and we'll probably be doing our Championship Sunday preview, talking about these games tonight. So, good. You all have a great weekend, and like I say again, the Chris Murray Report will be back next week, and so y'all have a great weekend.